Larson gets the waiver, Dale Jr. gets the 8, and Gateway gets the ratings. Let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, it is official. Kyle Larson finally got the waiver. We can finally talk about this one last time, put it to bed, and never have to talk about it again. So let's get into it and see what NASCAR had to say here. From NASCAR.com, we didn't take it lightly. Elton Sawyer, Senior Vice President of Competition, said Tuesday. Well, no duh. Of course they didn't take it lightly. They made something that was a nothing burger into an experience that lasted way longer than it should have. But let's continue. There was a lot of discussion internally, ultimately landed at giving Kyle a waiver. Essentially, our decision-making was, although we had inclement weather in Indianapolis as well as Charlotte, Kyle made every attempt to get to Charlotte. He was standing in the pit box with his helmet on, ready to go. Unfortunately, we had weather in Charlotte as well. We were unfortunately not able to get the race going. That's how we landed on our decision. Which basically gives off the vibes that, hey, weather happened to us, so it affected us, but if weather hadn't happened in Charlotte, it wouldn't have affected us and we wouldn't have cared, but because it affected us, we care. That's the vibe it gives off. But that being said, if they had stopped there with the statement, they would have been okay, but it's NASCAR. They're not going to stop there with the statement. They're going to keep on talking and just confuse it and make it even longer and more drawn out than it has to be, just like they did with the entire waiver process to begin with, so let's continue. This was without a doubt uncharted waters for us, Sawyer said. In the past, those waivers have been given mostly for medical reasons. This one was unprecedented in that we had drivers miss one of our races, a championship event, to be at another event. That's why it took as long as it did. He also threw in there, that's where the ... at. There was also a comment in there where he said, and others were suspensions that we gave out. So he did address the suspensions that they gave out. I know a lot of people want to jump on him for that, looking like he left it out there. He actually did say it, but the way the quote reads, it's not in there. That's what the 3 little dots are basically not showing. There were different views from different people. Everyone had a view on it. The ultimate decision we wanted was to get the right decision, which we felt like we got there. Yep, you did get the right decision. It wasn't a hard decision to make, but there was, everybody had a view on it. I want to come back to that here in just a minute. To not have Kyle Larson in our playoff, give our fans opportunity to see him race for a championship at the end of the day, didn't feel like the right decision for us to make. Sawyer said, so we didn't. We felt like we got to the right spot. Get to the right spot you did. I do indeed agree with your reasoning there. Who would want to win a championship if Kyle Larson is not allowed into the playoffs because he went and raced the Indianapolis 500, the biggest race in the world, arguably. It definitely the biggest race in the United States. There are other races overseas or wherever that you could possibly argue may be bigger than the Indianapolis 500, but definitely in the United States, Indianapolis 500, the biggest race here. So it's not like he skipped it to go race at his local short track or something like that. He skipped it for the Indy 500. And yes, you got to the right decision, because who would want to win a championship because somebody attempted to do the double? And not only that, gave NASCAR all this positive free press for over a month promoting doing the double. Obviously, it was a disappointment he didn't get it done. The one time in recent memory that I've seen NASCAR's social media unified where they were upset that Charlotte didn't get the race back going, because at that point, Kyle Larson was already there. If they had gotten the race back going, even the fans in attendance were booing NASCAR when they said they weren't going back green. So Larson would have actually at least been in both of the events. He wouldn't have completed all the laps in both events, but he would have been in both events had NASCAR started the race back up. But all that positive publicity that they got from doing the double, they almost turned it into a negative by dragging out this decision for so long. They were trying to take a positive and turn it into a negative. And by the grace of God, they arrived at the right decision. Which brings me to my next point. I want to know the people who are hiding behind the closed doors, the people that are hiding in the boardrooms. I want to know each and every single one of those guys' names who didn't want Kyle Larson, the guy that promoted the sport for a month, the guy that got more interest in the Charlotte Coke 600 or whatever you want to call it, got more interest in the Indy 500. Which one of those people had different opinions and I want to hear their opinions on why they didn't want Kyle Larson to get the waiver, why they drug it out this long before finally arriving at the common sense thing that, yeah, just let him into the playoffs. And they should be forced to defend those opinions in public. Put your name out there. Stand behind what you said. If you didn't want him to get it, what's your opinion on it? And, stand by and defend it. Because just about literally, unless you're a Hendrick hater or you don't like Kyle Larson, There's really not too many motorsports fans. I would say the vast majority of motorsports fans were excited for the double. If you didn't give him the waiver, you're going to discourage anybody else from doing the double. So I feel like it's overall just an absolute negative. And like I said, who wants to win a championship that way if you get Kyle Larson out of the playoffs or he doesn't get a waiver because of some technicality, right? Do you really want to be that year's champion? And the other thing that this does is Austin Cindric just won an exciting race. He shook up the playoffs, and once again, just like when Brad Keselowski won the other week, we're talking about some nonsense. We're talking about some nonsense, some drama, some manufactured drama, some manufactured clickbait from NASCAR, instead of talking about an awesome race from Austin Cindric where he never gave up and he got the win because he just kept his head down and doing what he was supposed to do. He completely shook off the playoffs, and we should be talking about the playoff picture. But instead, more people are interested in this drama, this manufactured drama that NASCAR has created. So once again, we could be talking about a really, really positive story. And it is a positive story that Larson got the waiver, but it is still a negative story that it took this long or was even a question to begin with. And finally, since this is hopefully the last time I want to talk about it, the rule itself shouldn't exist. I made a whole video about that, but guess who's on board with that particular thought process now? Bob Pockrass dropped this tweet completely agreeing with the previous video I made about this. When answering someone else on Twitter, Bob Pockrass said, or just get rid of the rule. The playoff points would have proven to be big enough that you aren't going to skip a race if you think you are going to be in it for the Drivers' Championship, unless you are hurting or racing in the world's biggest race, and then bring back top 30 rule if win. Which is exactly my point. If you just go back to the old version of this before they made this dumb rule, you just have to be top 30 in points, and you can miss as many races as you want to. Nobody's going to miss races, as he was saying in there. As I said in my previous video, nobody's going to miss races because they don't want to miss out on those playoff points trying to win a championship. Speaking of the championship, Bob Pockrass also letting us know, yes, Larson gets his playoff points back. Was listed at 0 on the recent points report. He has 17 playoff points now. And this, the updated playoff grid from Jet MDK, where you see Larson sitting in second in the playoffs right now, 17 playoff points, 1 point behind Denny Hamlin, who has one extra win over top of him. And right there at the cut line, you see what we probably should actually be talking about today. Austin Cindric winning and locking himself in right there in the number 8 spot. And then you got Chris Buescher as the last man in right now, followed by Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, and Josh Berry at 104. But Kyle Busch all the way up to Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace plus 13 in, Kyle Busch minus 20 out. That is a tight battle right there from 15th. So who's going to get those last couple of playoff spots? Or do we get another surprise winner? Is 100% what we should be talking about today after the Austin Cindric win, which was a really good win because it was well viewed. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the ratings. I don't talk about this often, but the ratings for this were up significantly. This via J-Ski. NASCAR on Fox drives double-digit viewership increase in Gateway to the West. Sunday's NASCAR Cup race from St. Louis delivered 2.5 million viewers almost on FS1, up 14% over last year. So there you go. Austin Cindric wins a barn burner of a race with crazy stuff happening at the end. The viewership is up 14%, and we're talking about waivers once again today. That's the only point that I'm trying to make. But we do have one more thing I want to cover. This from Breakard, who's basically brought us this story from nowhere, so shout out to him. If you haven't checked out his channel, check out his channel and give him a follow or subscribe if you like the content. Teresa Earnhardt and DEI have officially let the number 8 trademark lapse. It is Dale Jr.'s DEJ Holdings. Once the USPTO approves their application, which could take until the first quarter of 2025. And also, just to show you the stand-up guy that Breakard is, Joey Tartamella, who is basically one of the first people to bring this to light, says this is absolutely incredible that this happened. Been an honor to work with you on this whole thing. Cannot wait to see what the future holds on this whole case. Shout out to you for bringing this to everyone's attention. So really cool that he credited his source there, and that is really awesome. So really cool deal. The 8 is officially, looks like, coming back to Dale Jr., so get ready to purchase your number 8 equipment. I know I've talked about it on a live streams, but I couldn't remember if I'd actually talked about it on an episode. And shout out to Breakard and Joey Tartamella for getting us this info. All right, that's all I got for you in this one. If it's your first time to the channel, would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll just keep making these things. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you all as well. If you want to help out the channel, you can visit the merch store. The link is down in the description. If you got a question, comment, or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section. I try to get to as many of them as I can. And other than that, check us out on the live stream tonight, 8 o'clock. Peace.